Today, a federal judge said that President Donald Trump violated his order that lifted a blanket freeze on federal spending and again directed the administration to release the funds.
That, as top prosecutors in nearly half the country just won a temporary legal victory, restoring medical research funding stripped late last week.
This is really happening. Trump is absolutely panicking right now because what just happened is genuinely unprecedented. The Trump organization is facing its most serious financial crisis, and it happened faster than anyone expected. Judge Arthur Engoron in New York just enforced his fraud ruling from 2023 in the most aggressive way possible. He issued an emergency nationwide asset freeze order on every single property and business entity connected to Donald Trump. Every property, every bank account, every investment, everything will be frozen if Trump doesn't post the required bond. Locked down, inaccessible. And here's what makes this absolutely devastating. If Trump can't post the bond, the Trump organization won't be able to operate. The company won't be able to pay employees, won't be able to transfer funds, won't be able to sign contracts, won't be able to do anything. The business will grind to a complete halt. We're talking about 15,000 employees who won't get paid, golf courses that won't be able to open, hotels that won't be able to take reservations, retail spaces that won't be able to sell merchandise. Everything will stop. And there's no way to restart it because Trump cannot post the bond required to prevent the freeze. No bond company in America will touch him. The risk is too high. The fraud is too obvious. And without a bond, the freeze will take effect, which means Chapter 11 bankruptcy is looking increasingly likely. The Trump organization may have to file for bankruptcy. And once that filing happens, the company will face liquidation. Every asset could be sold and Trump could end up with nothing. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media nowadays. That's why we built John Brown Show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe because you might think you are, but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what's actually happening. Here's exactly what Judge Ng's order will do if Trump doesn't post the bond. The order will freeze every asset connected to Trump or the Trump organization in any way. That includes obvious things like Trump Tower and Mar-a-Lago, but it also includes less obvious things. Trump's personal bank accounts, his investment portfolios, his stake in various business ventures, the cash reserves held by Trump organization subsidiaries, accounts receivable from tenants and customers, everything. If Trump owns it or has any interest in it, it will be frozen and the order will apply nationwide. Not just in New York, every state, every jurisdiction, federal courts will be enforcing this order everywhere, which means Trump won't be able to access money anywhere in the United States if he doesn't post the bond. He'll be functionally unable to access his wealth, not actually broke because there are billions of dollars in assets, but functionally unable to use any of that money. It will all be locked down by court order if the bond doesn't get posted. Now, let me walk you through why Engoron issued this freeze order. It all goes back to the fraud judgment from 2023. Engoron ruled that Trump committed massive fraud by inflating property values. And as part of that ruling, Engoron ordered Trump to pay $464 million in discouragement and penalties. $464 million. That's the amount Trump has to pay to the state of New York for all the fraud he committed. But here's the thing. Trump never paid. He appealed the judgment. And during the appeal process, New York law allows defendants to delay payment if they post a bond. The bond has to cover the full judgment plus interest. So Trump needed to post a bond for around $500 million to stop enforcement. And Trump claimed he would post that bond. His lawyers kept saying they were working with bond companies, that a bond was coming soon, but it never came. And what happened next? We now know why. Because no bond company will issue a bond for Trump. Multiple sources report that Trump's team approached every major bonding company in America, and they all said no. Why? Because issuing a bond means the company is on the hook if Trump doesn't pay. And bond companies look at Trump's financial situation and see major risks. The Deutsche Bank loans are in default. The properties are overvalued and can't be sold for anything close to what Trump claims they're worth. Trump's income streams are collapsing. There's concern Trump can't pay. so the bond companies won't issue a bond. And without a bond, Engoron can enforce the judgment immediately, which is exactly what he's doing with this asset freeze order. Share this video with everyone you know, because now let's talk about the scope of properties that will be affected if Trump doesn't post the bond. Trump Tower in Manhattan will be locked down. Nobody will be able to enter except essential maintenance staff. The retail spaces will close. The commercial tenants will be notified they need to deal with the court-appointed receiver instead of Trump Organization management. The residential units where Trump used to live will be sealed. Mar-a-Lago will be locked down. Doral in Miami will be locked down. That's Trump's golf resort that was refinanced with the suspicious Deutsche Bank money. All 17 Trump golf courses across the country will be locked down. That includes Bedminster in New Jersey, Trump National in L.A. The golf course in Scotland, all of them will close, won't be able to operate. Trump International Hotel in D.C. will be locked down. Trump Plaza, Trump Park Avenue, every single property with Trump's name on it will come under court control if the bond isn't posted, and the Secret Service will be evicted from all of them. This is crucial. Secret Service was providing protection at several Trump properties, but once the properties come under court control as part of the asset freeze, Secret Service will have no authority to be there anymore. So they'll have to leave, and Trump will have no protection at his properties. Not that it matters because Trump himself is in federal custody, but symbolically, it's significant. The Secret Service eviction will mean Trump has lost official protection and privilege. And here's the financial math that makes this so catastrophic. Trump owes $464 million to New York for the fraud judgment. He owes $2.5 billion to Deutsche Bank for the defaulted loans, and that Deutsche Bank debt is now accelerating with penalty interest. The total debt is now over $3 billion, $3.1 billion to be exact, according to the court filings. Trump's total net worth, even using his own inflated valuations, was maybe $5 billion. But that was always questionable. The actual value of Trump's assets is way lower. Real estate experts estimate that if Trump's properties were sold at fair market value today, they'd bring in maybe $3 billion total. And that's before accounting for the fact that assets lose value when they're sold under court order. Forced liquidation sales always get discounted because buyers know the seller has to sell. So Trump's properties will probably sell for even less, maybe $2.5 billion, which means even after liquidating everything, Trump won't have enough to pay all his debts. He's underwater financially. Think about what that means. And it's getting worse by the hour because the longer the asset freeze stays in place, the more value the properties will lose. Hotels won't be able to operate without staff. Golf courses won't be able to maintain themselves. Buildings will deteriorate without upkeep, and tenants will start leaving when they realize the landlord is in legal chaos. Multiple reports say major tenants at Trump Tower are already talking to lawyers about breaking their leases. They don't want to be in a building that's caught up in bankruptcy proceedings. Same thing at Trump's other commercial properties. Tenants are leaving, which means rental income is disappearing, which means the properties become less valuable, which means when they finally get auctioned, they'll sell for less. Bond market analysts estimate that Trump's properties will lose significant value just from being locked down under court order if this proceeds. That's hundreds of millions of dollars evaporating because buyers don't want distressed assets from a criminal defendant. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown Show so let's dig into what Chapter 11 bankruptcy actually means for the Trump organization. Chapter 11 is corporate reorganization bankruptcy. It's what companies file when they can't pay their debts, but think they can restructure and survive. But here's the thing. The Trump organization may not survive this. The debts are too high. The assets are overvalued. The revenue streams are damaged. So what could happen is that Trump will file Chapter 11. The bankruptcy court will appoint a trustee to take control of the company, and that trustee will quickly realize that reorganization may be impossible. So the trustee could convert the case to Chapter 7. That's liquidation bankruptcy. And in Chapter 7, everything gets sold. Every asset, every property, every piece of furniture in Trump's offices, all of it goes to auction. and the proceeds get distributed to creditors according to priority. New York will get paid first for the fraud judgment. Deutsche Bank will get paid next for the loan default. Other creditors will get whatever's left. And Trump personally could get nothing. He could be completely wiped out financially. And here's what makes this even more significant. The bankruptcy trustee will have a legal duty to maximize value for creditors, which means the trustee is going to investigate every suspicious transaction Trump made, every property transfer, every loan, every payment to family members or associates. And if the trustee finds fraudulent transfers or preferential payments, the trustee can claw that money back. So if Trump gave money to his kids in the last few years, the trustee can sue to get that money back for the bankruptcy estate. If Trump paid certain creditors ahead of others, the trustee can reverse those payments. The trustee has enormous power to unwind Trump's financial dealings, and given what we now know about Trump's fraud, the trustee is going to find a lot of questionable activity. Let's talk about the human cost, because 15,000 people will be affected if this bankruptcy moves forward. Trump Organization employed roughly 15,000 people across all its properties and businesses, hotel workers, golf course staff, building maintenance, corporate employees, all of them. And if the freeze takes effect, they won't get paid. The asset freeze will mean the Trump Organization won't be able to access funds to make payroll. So paychecks that are supposed to go out won't be coming if this continues. These employees are uncertain about what's happening. Most of them are probably just finding out that they might not get paid, and many of them live paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford to miss a payment. They have rent due. They have bills. They have families to feed, and Trump's legal situation could cost them their income. And it will only get worse if Chapter 11 gets filed, because most of these employees will likely be laid off. The bankruptcy trustee won't keep 15,000 employees on the payroll while liquidating the company. That doesn't make financial sense. So probably 14,000 of these 15,000 employees are going to lose their jobs if this proceeds. And they're going to have trouble finding new jobs because the Trump name has become controversial. It's not fair to these employees. Most of them had no idea what Trump was doing. They were just working regular jobs, but they'll suffer anyway if the company collapses. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the potential auction schedule, because if this moves forward, everything will happen incredibly fast. Judge Engoron's order sets a timeline for liquidation if the bond doesn't get posted. Mar-a-Lago could go up for auction soon, Trump Tower shortly after, Doral following that, and the golf courses and other properties will get auctioned in rapid succession. Everything could be sold within days or weeks if the bankruptcy proceeds. That's fast for real estate transactions, but Engoron is pushing for speed because every day of delay means more value lost. So the auctions will be rushed if they happen, and that means prices will be lower because buyers won't have time to do full due diligence. But Ingram's priority is to satisfy the fraud judgment as quickly as possible. If that means Trump's properties sell for less than they might otherwise, so be it. The properties will be liquidated quickly if this proceeds. And whatever they bring in is what they bring in. And we're already seeing estimates of what these properties might sell for if they go to auction. Multiple real estate analysts have published projections Mar-a-Lago might bring $75 million. $75. That's significantly less than what Trump claimed it was worth. Trump Tower might bring $600 million. That's less than half of Trump's valuation. Doral might bring $200 million. Again, way below Trump's claimed value. When you add it all up, Trump's entire portfolio of properties might sell for around $2.8 billion total, which sounds like a lot. But remember, Trump owes $3.1 billion. So even after selling everything, Trump will still be short $300 million. And that shortfall will become a judgment that follows Trump personally. Even after bankruptcy, Trump will personally owe $300 million. And prosecutors can garnish any income Trump might ever earn in the future. Share this with everyone, because let's talk about how this bankruptcy will connect to the criminal cases if it proceeds. The Deutsche Bank loans that are in default, those were allegedly connected to questionable financial activities. So the bankruptcy trustee is going to find concerning evidence while investigating Trump Organization finances, and that evidence will be turned over to prosecutors because bankruptcy trustees have a duty to report potential crimes they discover. So the bankruptcy will generate even more criminal evidence if it proceeds. And the same thing will happen with the New York fraud case. The trustee will find documents showing how Trump inflated valuations, how he presented questionable information to banks, how he created financial statements. All of that will become new evidence for prosecutors. So Trump's financial collapse is feeding his legal troubles, and his legal troubles are accelerating his financial collapse. Judge Engen also addressed concerning financial connections in his asset freeze order. Enron specifically notes questions about the $2.5 billion in Deutsche Bank loans and their origins. And under federal forfeit laws, any property purchased with questionable money can potentially be seized by the government. So Engeron's order includes language saying that certain Trump properties may be subject to federal action on top of the state court liquidation, which means the federal government might take some properties before they even get to auction. The Justice Department is reportedly preparing potential actions for Mar-a-Lago and Doral. Specifically, those were the properties most directly connected to the Deutsche Bank loans. So the government might seize those properties and all the proceeds will go to the federal government, not to other creditors. And if Mar-a-Lago and Doral get taken federally, that's another significant amount that will disappear from Trump's estate, which means even less money available to pay creditors, which means an even bigger shortfall. So what does all of this mean for Trump personally? Well, Trump is currently in federal custody. And now, on top of his legal charges, he's facing potential bankruptcy. He has limited access to money, limited access to property, limited ability to generate income. Trump is in a very difficult financial position, and he's in federal detention. He probably won't get bail given the severity of the charges. So, Trump is going to be detained while his entire empire faces potential liquidation over the coming period. He'll be in detention if Mar-a-Lago gets auctioned. He'll be in detention if Trump Tower gets sold. He'll watch it all happen from custody if this proceeds, and there's nothing he can do to stop it. His lawyers can try to file motions, but the legal arguments are limited. The fraud judgment is final. The debts are real. The assets may have to be sold. That's the legal process, and courts are enforcing it. And Trump's family will be affected too if this moves forward. Don Jr., Eric Ivanka. All of them are defendants in various civil cases related to Trump organization activities. And they'll all be questioned by the bankruptcy trustee if it happens. They'll all have to explain what they knew about the business operations, what role they played, whether they personally benefited from payments, and anything they say can potentially be used. So, the family will be dragged into this situation. The Trump name is being damaged. The brand is suffering. Any business that had licensing deals with Trump is reevaluating those deals. Hotels that had Trump's name are reconsidering the signage. Golf courses are looking at rebranding. The Trump brand that was built over decades is losing value rapidly. Having Trump's name on something may actually make it less marketable now. That's how dramatically the situation has changed. Now let's talk about the political implications. Trump is facing bankruptcy. Trump is in custody. Trump is facing serious legal charges. This is significantly damaging Trump as a political figure. His image as a successful businessman is being challenged. His claim to be a strong leader is being questioned. His entire political brand was built on business success. But that narrative is collapsing, and Republican senators are distancing themselves from Trump. Multiple Republican senators have expressed concerns. They're looking at the legal situation. They're looking at the financial situation, and they're worried about being associated with it. So there's movement away from Trump within his own party. Markets have reacted to the uncertainty. There's been volatility as investors try to understand what this means. Some analysts think that once the situation stabilizes, markets will recover. The theory is that Trump himself was creating uncertainty with unpredictable actions. And once there's clarity about what happens next, investors will feel more confident. But in the short term, there's anxiety. There's concern about what a Trump bankruptcy would mean, what it would mean for his businesses, what it would mean for employees, what it would mean for creditors. All of that uncertainty is affecting market sentiment. The bottom line is this: Donald Trump's entire business empire faces a court-ordered freeze. If he doesn't post the bond, He won't be able to access money, won't be able to operate businesses. The company won't be able to pay employees if the freeze takes effect. Chapter 11, bankruptcy is looking likely and could lead to liquidation. Every Trump property could be auctioned. Mar-a-Lago Trump Tower, everything potentially sold. 15,000 employees will lose income if this proceeds. Trump personally is facing financial ruin. He's in federal custody, facing serious charges. His family will be investigated. The Trump brand is being damaged, and the political implications are massive. This is a complete financial crisis. Trump built his empire over decades, and now it's potentially being dismantled in weeks. Everything he accumulated could be seized and sold if the bankruptcy moves forward. And it's happening because of the fraud judgment, because Trump couldn't post the bond, because no bond company would take the risk. The legal system is working, the courts are enforcing their orders, and Trump is facing the consequences of his business practices. This is what accountability looks like in the American legal system. This story continues. Stay tuned.
Today, a federal judge